All right, recording has started. So I'll summarize what we did in our previous lecture. In our previous lecture, we did an activity of designing a solution, considering well-architected frameworks such as high availability, mitigating single point of failure, load balancing, right? And then self-healing. Auto-scaling was the use case that we did not demonstrate. I will be demonstrating that in DevOps class. That is one thing pending. But the entire solution was put together by a single gentleman, right? You guys did it, I did it. But most of you have disappointed me that you guys have not done the lab. A lot of people will say, sir, I'm busy, I'm time constrained, right? I understand all that. This training is for you. If you don't practice, trust me, you will not understand the first time. So you have to practice, right? So with that said, usually when you work in an organization, you will not be driving this solo. You will have peers working with you. You'll be working with your juniors. You'll be working with your seniors respectively, right? So, but at the end of the day, you will have one AWS account, and this will be your organization AWS account, right? Now we are doing labs. We have our own accounts. We log into our own accounts. We do our own projects. We're responsible for our own things that we're doing on AWS platform today. But at work, you will have company's account, and you need to create users and manage them. So in today's lecture, I'm going to demonstrate how you can create multiple users. How can you give permissions? How do you reset password? How they can log in? Creating your organization URL, etc., etc., etc. is what we're gonna focus at. So let me bring my Excel sheet. Okay. So can someone tell me what is identity and access management? What is IAM? What is identity access management? What is identity theft management? What is it, boys? What is IAM? You guys can hear me, right? Image Amazon management. User permission to access services and authority other than root user. Image Amazon management. Saddam. You're hilarious, yeah. IAM stands for Identity and Access Management. You guys are just throwing English at me. You just guys are throwing jargons at me, right? So I will tell you what exactly it is. If you go to your office, you have Active Directory, which is also an identity and access management, right? So let me explain you what exactly identity access management is. It works on 4A. What is this 4A? 4A is authentication, authorization, accounting, and audit. Authentication, authorization, accounting, and audit. Authentication, authorization, accounting, and audit. Right. So what is this 4A authentication? Right. Methods that you will use to authenticate. For example, username and password is a authentication method. Biometric is a second authentication method. OTP password through your mobile phone is a third authentication method. You go to your office, you swipe your ID card, authentication method. So the first A stands for authentication. You try different techniques to authenticate and gain access. Authorization. What you're authorized to see. Can you see your friend's salary slip at office? Mostly not. But if you are part of finance or HR, you might typically see everybody's salary, right? So likewise, authorization in your office, you have so many floors, right? Your ID card might not work on all floors. You cannot open all the doors and get inside. You're restricted in certain block of your office. What you're authorized to see. Zohorul, you have question?
No.
Then put yourself on mute, buddy.
I'm sorry. No, I don't have a question. Sorry.
I can hear you breathing. I can hear your heartbeat. I can hear you. You're talking to your girlfriend on the phone.
I don't have a question. I don't.
Huh?
I don't have a question.
What?
You don't hear me?
I can hear you, but I did not understand what you said.
Oh, I see. I don't have any question.
Then mute yourself now. You are in unmute, dude. I can hear you. You're calling to your girlfriend. You're talking to your girlfriend. You're saying, baby, the class is almost done. As soon as this is done, I will take you to McD. All that phone conversation I can hear. Put yourself on mute. Okay, since he's muted now, right? So what you're authorized, right? You can log into excuse me, you can get into certain floor by swiping your ID card, right? Based on your authorization, you can see certain applications, you can see project related work. So the second is stands for authorization, right? What you're authorized to see or view, right? Third A is accounting. What time you logged in, what time you logged out, when you came to office, what applications you have done, timing basically, right? What is your utilization report? How much time you spend outside office? Are you doing early logout? Are you spending too much time in cafeteria? Right? All that. Are you accessing Facebook a lot of times in your office, doing Twitter, shitter, not working? Accounting, able to account and keep track of what activities that you do. The fourth A is audit. Preparing a report, putting things together, and screwing your happiness. So this is a 4A principle and identity access management. Somebody's identity, what is that identity can access and you manage it. In a nutshell, it is identity access management. And they work on 4A principle. And there are hundreds of products that we have. Active Directory does one of those. You have ForgeRock, you have Palo Alto. There are a lot of security products that exist on the internet today. Right? So AWS has their own version of identity and access management where you manage somebody's identity, you grant someone's access is what you will do here. Are we clear so far? Right? So we'll divide this into various stages here so that we can simplify and we can understand how we can put this in practice. So the first is user, second is policies, and the third is group, and fourth is role. This is, I'm going to call this permissions. I don't see Rahul here. I'll catch hold of him. Right? So user, this is you and me. Who else I have? Siva. Shankar, what are you doing, Shankar? Why do you need training?
No, just join to understand how
Monitor.
it's happening.
Just join to monitor me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Right. Take Devi here. Right. So we have 4 users that are available, right? So this is you and me. So we have our own users here, right? And once we have your users, this is in AWS, when you say policies, it basically means permission. You give them access to access certain resources, right? So far, we have explored EC2. We worked with RDS, right? Certificate manager, right? And then what else? Route 53. So these are the services that we have modestly used, right? So you can give permission to specific user that all these 4 services he can access or she can access, post which couple of other services may not be available, right? This is group that you can create. This you can make DevOps group, right? Or this you can make infra architect, database team, whatever. So the naming nomenclature, the naming convention may differ from organization to organization. You can use whatever is respectively. I will add groups in the first then. And then finally roles. So can someone tell me what is roles? And trust me, if you already have an answer without listening to your answer, I'm going to tell you that your answer is wrong, right? This is not the role that you're thinking right now. This is a different type of role. I'll give you about 30 seconds. You can quickly Google and tell me what exactly role is, right? Look for IAM role. This is not the role that you and I are thinking right now. All right, guys. So time is up. Can you tell me what is IAM role? Access to services through programmatically. That is a programmatical user. The answer what you have given is for the IAM programmatical user. What is IAM role? Okay, so IAM role is designed to connect one or more AWS services, right? So typically what happens, there are a lot of services that works in silo, right? In subsequent class, you will learn how do you connect services outside security group, right? How do you interconnect them using IAM role, right? The purpose of IAM role is to bypass the credentials or to not have to exchange the credential between one or more services. So by this way, you can just pass the role and you don't have to log into another service. You can just tunnel into that and you can move your files, you can bring it back in, you can execute the command, all that we can do. So in a nutshell, to connect one or more AWS services without need of exchanging credentials are called IAM roles. Right? I know the roles that you have in your mind. You're thinking I'm a Linux administrator, I'm an architect, I'm a CEO, right? These roles are correct. But in AWS world, right, the perspective, the role is different, right? So likewise, you do not call permissions here, you call policies, right? So these things you need to remember. So let's dive in and create a couple of roles here. But even before we create roles, we have to create, right, organization URL or login URL, right? So this login URL that we need to create so that all the associate accounts that you're going to create will use that URL to login. Right now, to do this, we'll go to services and we'll go to IAM, identity and access management. I've already done this lab previously, so I'm going to customize it and remove the name here. Right, so this is your organization URL, right? You have your account number and then it says you want to sign into your account and it has tailored the URL for you. Now, typically this URL is difficult to remember because there are far too many numbers in the URL. This URL is not simple, right? So I will show you how do you mask those account number to ensure that you have a seamless URL and you can remember the entire URL. You can memorize the URL. All I have to do is click on customize, right? Something like this. This is my company, so I'm going to say Valaxy-India and I'm going to click on create. And if you see here, the account number is masked. Right, and if you want to change to a different name, all you have to do is click on customize again and you can try a couple of names. Now remember, if it is throwing you an error, then assume that somebody has taken that name and that name is not available, right? So I have my URL ready. I'm going to copy this. Now you need to remember, right, do not try to log into the browser here. If you log into the browser, it will conflict with your root login. try to log in the incognito mode, right? So therefore it can keep the session isolated from the other session that you already have, right? So you need to just paste the URL here, and this will load the personalized AWS website for you, right? This is specific to your organization, and it will load a page for your organization here. And this is the only customization that AWS would currently allow. You cannot change this logo and put your company logo here, or you cannot change anything that you have on the right hand side. All this you cannot do. You're getting my point? The maximum customization is the name that you have here, right? Now if I go back and if I customize it again,
Could you show me
now I've
again?
removed the account number. Okay, right, I put him on mute now, right? So what I've done is I've removed the name now. I've removed the name. Now what happens if I copy this and if I try to log into incognito mode? Just opening another session here, paste it. Right, now your account number is visible. In my previous example, I had the alias or the mask ID, right? Mask name I had reflected here. Now in this example, I have not masked it and my account number is evident here. That's the only difference, but otherwise the entire system would work identical, right? So once you have your login ready, right, you can pass it on to your employees, your colleagues, and a couple of others that they want AWS access to. Now we'll start with the group, right? This one DevOps group, I'll delete this. Right now, the couple of groups that we have discussed, right? We have DevOps group. We already had that. I have deleted it. We'll try with something else. Let's try infra architect. Create. And just a name that I'm giving here. You can give anything that you want. Next step. Now it is asking what permissions or what policies would you like to associate with this group. Now why this step is important? The moment you onboard a user in this group, he will inherit all the privileges that the group has. That's simple, right? Though you can give direct policies or direct permission to the user itself, that is not a standard practice. But though I will show it to you one use case without a group also. But for now, you need to just clearly understand that once you have the group ready and whatever the policies or permissions that you associate, the user will inherit that. Right. So I'm going to say what we have discussed: EC2 RDS, certificate manager, and Route 53. EC2. Right, you can type F for full access. If you type R, you have read-only access, right? So I'll say F, full access. And RDS, I'll give him read-only access. I do not want him to fiddle with the database. So I'll give him read-only access for this. Route 53, full access. And then finally, certificate manager. I'll give him read-only access. I do not want him to fiddle with the certificate or the lead certificate. But though you can give full access also for the group here. Next, a quick summary on what policies that you have associated with. I have two policies that has full access, two has read-only. And then I will create a group. Right? Now you realize, hey, right? The group that I'm creating is for infra architect, and perhaps read-only privileges may not work for the RDS. Hence, you would like to go back and change it. You can always navigate to group, and then you can say, hey, detach the policy to remove the policy, and you can attach the policy back here. Just a use case. So that means even after group is created and even after associating policies, you can always go back and fiddle around with it. Right? So doable. So in case if you haven't got it first time right, go and edit it. Simple. Now if you see here, I've added the RDS full access. So this step is done. Now let's proceed with users. Users, a couple of users from previous class, I'll get rid of them quickly. Right, so I'm starting from clean slate. I have no users here. Add user, and I can, by the way, I can add multiple users here. There's no limitations here. Shiva, who else? Right now, there are two accesses that are available. One is programmatical, and one is access to AWS Management Console, right? And the best part is you can be both programmatical user and a human user, right? So let me give you the use case here. The use case here is if you want to build something, if you want to launch, right? If you want to stop something, you can always log into console and you can do it, right? But sometimes what happens in certain environments, you do not have access to console. You'll be using AWS CLI. So from those perspective, if you have a programmatical access also, you can use third-party utility or CLIs to orchestrate or administrate your environment. That is one way that we are looking at. The second way is in a DevOps use case, right? You're developing a program and you want to call APIs. Programmatical user will be beneficial there, right? So a same user can have both programmatical and human access, but I'll try to show you two separate labs here. So right now I'm going to make all of this a human user. I'm giving console to access. Password, I'm going to custom generate a password for the user. And let me show it to you, right? If you join any new company, they'll always give you welcome 123, right? And then they will tell you, hey, you change it. Something like that I'm trying to simulate here, right? And this option is very important here. If you check this, what will happen is once you log in with the default password, the system will prompt you to update or change your password. If I do not click this, then the system will not prompt you and this becomes your default password, right? And then later you don't have an opportunity to change it. Only an administrator can force you to change it. So I'm going to tick this option for now. Permissions. I will select this group, right? This is the same infra group that I've created. So all these 4 users will be a part of that group and they will inherit all the privileges. Review. All right. Guys, are you guys are able to hear me? Am I audible? Where did Shankar go? Okay, right. Now you would like to send an email, right? Let's assume that the user is not in India, he's somewhere else, and you'd like to send him the details. So all you have to do is click on send email here. Right. So AWS will draft an email for you. Right. It'll pre-write the content for you, what exactly this is. Excuse me. If you see it, there's a login URL that is already included. There's a username also that is already included. but unfortunately the password is not included here. The reason why the password is not included here is because if an email and password is sent together and if the mail is intercepted, right, there may be a possibility that there will be a theft of the credentials and there will be a breach, right? It's as simple as you have lost your credit or a debit card. What will happen? You call up a bank, you request them, they'll send you a card, they'll send you a pin, but card and pin will come separately on 2 separate days with 2 separate couriers. This is just to ensure that on the way in the transit, nobody misuses your credentials, right? So you can always send him an email, right? In our case, he's my student, so he's already joined, right? But usually you have to just put his email ID here and then you send this email. I'm going to close it off and I'm going to click on close here. So all my users are ready, right? So if I go to Divi user here, right? And if I go to groups, he's part of this group and this group has these many privileges here. Very clearly it is showing up, right? So let me now log in. Now let me log in with Divi user here. Password, sign in. Now as you see, as we discussed, it is forcing you to change it and you don't have an option to skip this. You have to change it right now. So I'm going to quickly change it here. Confirm password change. It's taking longer than usual. Mhm. Okay, so maybe my net is slow. That is what is taking some time. But I have changed the password and eventually this should allow me to log into the console here. Just give me a quick moment here for this to show up. Mm, Let me do one thing. You guys can see my screen and hear me, right?
What is the salary like?
Hey Gopal, Hey, Gopal.
Mr. Pager.
I think he just joined for Ecofit. He's joining and he's doing something else there. Okay. I don't know, guys. I think there's some issue here. It is not opening up. Um, let me try over here. It'll contradict with my root login, but anyways. Okay, let me log in. Okay, finally it is working. So I've logged into a Divi account here, and if you see, Divi has logged into my account. Now he wants to see what is the company's bill. He will go to the billing dashboard, and he will end up disappointed because he does not have access to see that. Right? So it says he does not have a permission. Now maybe he wants to see what is there in company storage. He'll go to S3. Right? Access denied. He does not have an doesn't have a permission here. Right? Let's do one more thing here. Let's say CloudWatch. Hopefully you should not have access to this also. So what I'm trying to simulate is whatever the permissions that I've given, only those privileges are available. So beyond that, he cannot do anything. Any services that he wants to consume, the services might not work or he will get an error message, right? Now, if I go back to EC2, typically EC2 should work. There should not be a problem with the EC2, right? There's no service issues that he has. RDS, right? Whatever the services that he has permission to, he should be able to do all of that. You getting my point? But apart from that, he does not have access to anything right now, right? Now let me sign out from here, and let me go back to my root login. But when you're performing this lab, make sure that you perform in two different browsers or two different tabs. One should be in incognito mode and one should be in your regular mode, right? For me, it seems that there's some problem that the website is not loading in incognito mode. So I have to go back and forth login and show you the lecture here. Right? So I've now logged in back to my console and this is me. Right? Now let me switch to Route 53. IAM. Now let's go back to Divi user here. Now there are a couple of other use cases we have to discuss. Now we understood about giving permission to him. Whatever the permission is given, only he can access those things. Right? Now let's say that he's outside the project. He's no longer in the project, right? He's outside the project, or maybe he's outside the company. He's no longer working there. So what do you want to do? Right? Simple. Click on manage here, and then you disable Divi here. So once you disable, all his accesses that he has, it will be revoked. Or if you find that he's doing some breach and you want to block his access immediately, so that there's no further action he can take or he cannot log into the environment at all. You can just come back and click on disable, and he will lose his access. He no longer can log into the console itself, right? Second use case. In third use case, he will come back and say, hey, I'm trying to log in, but it says the password is incorrect, right? So from that perspective, you can click on this. Sorry, you can click on custom here, and you can regenerate a password for him. You can say welcome 123, and you can tick this here, and then he can log in and he can change the password, right? This is one way. Or the other way is if you find him exchanging the password, right? So for example, Divi and right, Divi and Shankar are best friends, and they're exchanging passwords. They're writing passwords on notepads. They're leaving passwords here and there, and perhaps you don't want that to happen, right? So what you can do is you can simply tick this option. So when they log in with their original password next time, the system will say, hey, it is time that you change the password. It'll force them to change the password. So the multiple ways where you can mend them, right? Either you can disable the user, either you can reset the password for them, or you can force them to change the password, right? So fourth use case. So there are four use cases that you can do. The last use case is account settings here, right? So if you want to have a specialized standard that you follow where your password should have upper cases, you can tick this option, at least one uppercase. If the user does not set, right, he cannot set the password, so the system will force him to have one uppercase. You can tick this where a user is supposed to have one lowercase also. You can tick this if you want to have that uppercase, lowercase plus number, right? And then require at least one non-alphanumeric character. That means at symbol, dollar sign, hyphen, something like that, right? All this you can force him, and you can make this password even more stricter. So that welcome 123 is far more simpler, right? So what you can do is you can further say, hey, prevent reusing password. If you say 10 times here, he cannot use last 10 passwords. He always has to come with something unique and something new, right? Or if you set it to 3, he cannot use last 3 passwords, right? And you can enable password expiration. You can say every 90 days, whatever the password that user has set should get expired. Or you can say 180 days or 360 respectively. Whatever days you want. You can also say 30 days. So he has to have 12 passwords. That means each password is changed every month for a period of 12 months. Are you getting my point? So password expiration required administrative reset. If you tick this option, the user password will expire. User cannot reset the password. Only you can reset the password and give it to him. Right? So mostly you don't use this option. Once the password is getting expired, customer will or the end user will get a notification that, hey, your password is getting expired. It's time that you change it. Are you getting my point? Are you with me, guys? Yes, 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 no, maybe. Yes, you can log in into incognito mode, buddy. There's no restrictions from incognito mode. You can log into incognito mode. I think it is to do with my browser or my internet. This problem is specific to my machine, but it just works fine in incognito mode. My previous labs have worked. It is just that it's troublesome for me, right? Now let's take the use case back again, right? So Divi and Shankar. Divi and Shankar are best friends. In spite of strictening the password, doing password hardening here, forcing them to have complex passwords, right? You have also tried resetting the password for the user, forcing them to change the password, right? All that circus we have done. In spite of this, Shankar and Divi are exchanging password. So what do you think we can do next to prevent them from exchanging passwords, preventing them from password breach, or preventing them from saving password here and there? What is the next thing that we can do? Terminate them, yaar. Don't you know exchanging password is not allowed? It's a breach of InfoSec. You terminate them. But both of your answers are right, Mahesh and Zorul. MFA is the next option, right? And if you see here, you have right an option to assign an MFA for this user, right? Now click on manage. Now there are three options that are available. You can use a virtual MFA. It's a software such as Google Authenticator, Microsoft Authenticator, and there are ample amount of MFA softwares that exist on the internet that works on your mobile phone and also works on your desktop, right? All are supported here. The second option is U2F security key, right? That means it looks like a pen drive, but it has a fingerprint scanner. You can scan your fingerprint to unlock your AWS account. That is the second thing. Third thing is you can use hardware MFA, right? A small pager-like device that you need to carry, which randomly generates the code for you to unlock. So last two options I cannot demonstrate it to you because neither I have hardware MFA, neither you guys have to do lab, right? Nor you have a pen drive like device which has a fingerprint scanner to scan and log in. Neither I have. So hence virtual MFA is the use case that we will be demonstrating in today's lecture. Continue. Right? Now it says show a QR code. And it is saying install a compatible application on your mobile phone or on your computer. When you click on list of application here, it will tell me what are the applications that are currently supported. Google Authenticator you can use for Android and iPhone. Windows Phone comes with Windows Authenticator. Do we have anything for desktop here? No. Okay, so we'll be using this. This is an authenticator from Facebook, I guess. No thanks. Okay, let's try with Google Authenticator this time. Because I've done this before and I'm familiar with Google Authenticator, perhaps we will stick with that tool. Right. So what I have done is I've already downloaded and installed this tool right now. And right now in my phone, I am on this screen. In my phone, I am on this screen right now. Right. So what I've done is I've clicked on begin. Right. Clicked on begin. So once I click on begin, it'll take me to a next screen. You can skip this and I'm on this screen. It says scan a QR code. The first option says scan a QR code. So once I click on scan a QR code, right, my camera is turned on. As soon as my camera is turned on, it is looking for a QR code. If you guys have used Paytm in India, where you scan a QR code and make a payment, the whole experience is like that. So I'll click on show QR code and I can see this. Now I've scanned this with my mobile phone. As soon as I have done scanning, right, my screen looks like this now. Right now, remember, you will not have two entries, you will have single entry here. The second entry represents second account, the first entry represents the first account, because the emails are different. And on the right hand side there's a clock that is ticking. You have about 30 seconds before this code can get refreshed. So what I'm going to do is I already have a code generated. I'm going to enter this code, right? And then I have to wait for the clock to complete and my code will refresh. It did refresh now, right? So I've entered two different codes. Assign MFA. That's it. My MFA is assigned right now. So now let me log out and log back in. Because I need to log out from Shiva's account. I have to need to log in back into Shiva's account. Where did it go? Right. So the username is Divi. Sign in. Now, if you see it is asking for an MFA, right? So all you have to do is open that app again, right? I have tried all this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 random numbers and all. It does not work. Whatever the number that is showing up here is the number that you need to use. So in my case, it has given me this number. I'm going to use this number and sign in. There you go. It took me into a system. So you're absolutely right. MFA is the next solution. But what these guys have done is these guys have started taking print screen and started sending MFA code on WhatsApp. Now what is next? Right? Are they calling each other and saying, hey buddy, can you generate an MFA code for me? Can you generate this code for me? I am logging into your account. I am doing this. So what is the next procedural step, guys? What do you think we should do? I've configured my account with MFA. Right. So what will you do, guys? How do you mitigate this? Fire them, terminate them. Absolutely correct. Send them home, right? So that is what we're gonna do. So let's continue further, right? So far we have understood how do you create a custom URL. We understood how do you create groups. We have also understood how do you create user. I've talked to you about user lifecycle policies and how do you reset the password, attach, remove, and then disable the user. I've also demonstrated how to incorporate MFA with this, right? Under groups, I've demonstrated and showed you how do you add policies, which is also known as permissions. How do you edit or modify those permissions in the group, right? Roles we have to discuss in policy, we have to discuss. We will continue to use IAM in our subsequent classes where I'll be demonstrating roles and policies. Let's continue further. Mhm. Give me a moment. I'm just looking for a presentation. Okay, this is it. right? So what I've done is I've pulled up a presentation that is published by Amazon Web Services themselves. This is not a generic presentation that is flying on the internet that I have picked it up, right? Amazon has their own channel on SlideShare, and I have picked up the slide from their own channel to discuss the storage opportunities and options that we have in AWS. So far, are you guys clear? Have you guys understood identity access management before we continue?
Hello, Arnan.
Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, could you tell me about the root user and regular user, and what is should be best practices for those things?
No, your question was what is the difference between a root user and IAM user?
Right. One thing, and second thing is best practices for.
See, best practices is you avoid using root user, right? So when I log into my AWS management console with my email address and password, that represents I'm a root user, right? So mostly you will not create a root user. You can create an administrator here, right? If you go back to IAM, let me show you an IAM screen. Right, so all I have to do is go to group. I can create an admin group here. Right, and then come next. Right, you can create an administrative access here. So as an administrator, he can do everything except creating the IAM users. He cannot create or remove IAM users, but otherwise this administrator can administrate the entire AWS account. So the best practice here is to avoid using the root login such as email ID and password. Instead, you can use IAM and create various use cases. You have various users. You can create root-like administrator, root-like user, which does not have all the privileges like root, but can still do most of the root-related work. So the best practice here is to use an administrator user instead of using root.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Right. All right, so let's understand some of the storage portfolios that AWS has. Currently, AWS has three families of storage. First is block. Under block, you have two storage categories. One is elastic block storage, which is persistent. That means it is a SAN storage, a storage that is provisioned over a network and presented to a VM. Is a SAN, and therefore it is an elastic block storage, a block storage that is been given over a network to a VM, right? So this will always be a primary operating system where you install your operating system, where typically your instance will run. This cannot be replaced, right? This portion cannot be replaced. It will always be there. We have a second type of storage called instant store, right? So this cannot be a root drive. This will not be a root drive, but it is better than the root drive, right? Because in your root volume, since your VM is accessing the storage over a network, there's an inherited latency, right? Though the drive is fast, there's a trip that a data has to travel over a network to storage and back and forth. But in case of an instant store, it's a local storage within the server, right? Within the server, it is a local storage that has been provisioned along with the VM, right? And since the storage doesn't have to travel over a network, it is very close to memory and processor, right? There is very negligible latency in the network, point number one. Now, point number two is these drives are specifically designed for higher IOPS. IOPS is input output operations per second, right? So an ideal candidate for having a storage within the server is like in memory or able to use higher storage for cache, right? You can only scale memory up to 2 terabytes. What if you want a cache that is 20 terabytes or 25 terabytes, right? Your server cannot come with a memory which can cross more than 2 terabytes. So now you're out of luck. So there are mission critical workloads where you need lots and lots of storage just to cache information and keep it ready. So that is where your instance store would come handy. It is a hard drive. It's a high performance hard drive that is locally mounted within the server, close to your memory. You cannot use it as a root volume. It will always be a secondary volume. And if you shut down or restart your machine, you will lose the data from instance store because the data is temperamental. Right now we've been creating EC2 instances, right? But we did not see this storage. So let me show you where the storages are available and how you can access it.
Hello, Adnan.
Go ahead, buddy.
Does it available to all the instance which we have created, or it is just limited to specific instance?
Specific instances only.
Okay.
So I'm getting into EC2 right now. I'm launching an instance here. Nothing fancy, just gonna pick up a Linux bundle here. Next, right? Now, if you see the instance storage, it says EBS only, EBS only. So basically the indication here is the list of instances that are available at the initial stage do not come with that instance store feature. But if I slowly scroll down here, right, only few set of machines, memory optimized machine onwards. From this machine onwards, you have 2 terabyte of one storage, and this is like a hard rule. In case of an EBS, you can start with 30 GB, you can go to 40, 50, 60, right? But in case of an instance store, it is take it or leave it. The sizes are fixed. You either take it or you either leave it. You cannot shrink it, you cannot further customize it, right? Now, just to give an example, this particular machine comes with one instance store, right? And this particular machine comes with two instance store, right? Now that means two hard drives were 2 terabyte each. So total 4 terabyte in case of this machine. And in case of this machine, it will be 2 terabyte of one drive. So likewise, if I keep coming down, you have 24 instance. So that means 2 terabyte into 24. So let me show you a couple of examples here. Let me take this example. Configure instance detail, add storage. And if you see here, this is my block storage where I can customize and I can say give me 100. And this is my EBS and will continue to be my root operating system drive. But my instance store are always optional, and if you see here, I do not have a privilege to do the size changes here. Either I take it or either I leave it. If I say I want this machine with one drive only, that's it. I can remove it off. And if I want to add a new volume, I have this option here. I can say give me another EBS for 100 or maybe 1000, or you can say okay, give me one instance store. Once the instance store is taken, you will not have the option here. The option is gone. So that means on that screen, it's very clearly saying you will get only two instance store. So let me go back here. Let me come down. Now this particular machine says it has 24, right? 24 into 2 terabytes. Yes, change it. Add storage, and there you go. These many storages that you have here, right? So quickly, let me summarize. It is a local storage within the server. Data stores temperamental. Upon reboot or shutdown, your data is lost. Used for in-memory applications, right? And it's a very fast drive, low latency drive. And this is only available with specific set of instances. Are we clear, boys? So EBS, and all instances support EBS, and this will continue to be a primary volume. This will continue to be a secondary volume, right? And one instance can have maximum of 24 instance store, right? So that is a max. Now, can I use one instance store with multiple instances? The answer is no. But you can use multiple storages with one single EC2 instances in case of an instance store, right? Now you realize, hey, right, can't I get a storage where I have one single storage which can connect to hundreds of instances and I can communicate back to that storage and save data? The answer is yes. And that technology is called NAS in your traditional data center, network attached storage. And in AWS world, we call it as EFS, Elastic File System. right? But at the end of the day, it is NAS. That means it's a centralized storage presented to VMs over a network as a attached drive, not a root drive. That means this cannot be a root drive where you can run your operating system, right? This will always be a secondary drive. It is not as fast as instant store because it is not local, it is over a network, right? But it is a centralized drive where hundreds of VMs can be mounted upon to, but in case of an EBS or an instant store, you cannot, right? And this is a file server. You can have centralized location storing centralized data where your applications can access those data from a centralized location back and forth, right? So we will do labs today and I will show you how do you use EFS. Let's continue forward. Then we have object storage, right? So object is a very creative name. We typically have storages that has file systems, right? In case of Linux, it is ext4, ext3. In case of Windows, it is NTFS. Previous versions had FAT, right? In case of EFS, EFS also has a file system, NFS4, which is a Linux-based file system that it has. But in case of an object storage, it does not have a file system. And this is very important, right? Now, for example, I'll give you a pen drive. In my pen drive, I'll put one video file, one audio file, one document. As soon as you plug this pen drive to your laptop, your operating system will quickly detect and understand, hey, there's a video inside, would you like to play? Right? There's a document, there's a photo. Your operating system can distinguish and understand the data type that resides within the pen drive. But in case of an AWS object storage, right, whether you put movie, whether you put images, whether you put your document, it will only see ones and zeros. It cannot distinguish it's a video file or an audio file. And what is a big deal? Why am I making a big deal out of it? Right? Let's also discuss that. Now, I am a heavy user of Google Drive, and all your videos and classroom lectures you download over a classroom, which is stored on a Google Drive, right? Now, I have a very bad habit of scanning my documents and storing. Every document that I have, it could be my mass card, driving license, anything. I always scan them and keep a copy of that on my Google Drive, right? Just in case if something happens to my physical copy, I always have a virtual copy. Therefore, I'm protected. Now, what has happened is, right, I think 2-3 months ago in May, June, right, Google congratulated me on my graduation day. And I was like, surprise. My LinkedIn has this information and nowhere else Google knows this, right? How did it know? But I ignored it, right? Couple of weeks back, it gave me an anniversary on the trip that we had last year. And again, I was surprised that I did not even publish these photos on Facebook. How did Google get to know? And when I was doing a research on the internet, I learned that Google has developed an algorithm, irrespective of data that you have, whether you have a PDF document, whether you have a scan copy of your images, you have a video, the algorithm and the artificial intelligence can read through your data depending on your file types and understand what exactly it is. Are Baba, recently it started notifying me that I had to pay an Airtel landline bill, right? And there was a due, right? And it started reminding me, seeing my itinerary in my email started reminding me that there's a flight schedule you might want to take, though the flight was cancelled for various reasons, right? So Google can see information irrespective of the method that you store your data. A lot of people will say, I've scanned it, it's a PDF, how someone can read it, but no, they can read it, right? But in case of an AWS object storage, because the storage type is object, does not have a file system, it will only read your data as ones and zero. Whether you put a video or an image or a company document, it will only see this as ones and zeros, right? So that is why it's a very big deal. Enterprise love this storage because Amazon does not have a capability to extract and read the type of data that you're putting in there. Now there are two type of storage families that comes under object. One is S3. S3 stands for Simple Storage Service. SSS, therefore Simple Storage Service. So basically what this represents is if you have a frequently accessed data that you more frequently access and you want to have this access with limited latency or no latency at all, and you would like to fastly retrieve, then you will use S3 because the purpose of the storage is to frequently access. The second storage type that you see there in the last is called Glacier, which looks like a vault. You put something there and you forget it, right? That means it's a final resting place for your data. You have a lot of data that you have, right? and that can be put into Glacier if you do not want to frequently access. Right? For example, let's say I am 55 years old, right? And I did my college, let's say 35 years ago. Now, what I do is I happen to apply a job. I go to a job interview. I clear the job interview, and they say, "Hey, can you furnish your credentials?" Right? So I'll furnish my 35 years of experience to the organization, including my education and graduational documents. Right? So what this organization will do is they will do BGC background check, right? And they will go to my college and they'll say, "Hey, do you know Sohail Adnan? Did he studied in 2008, etc., etc., etc." And the registrar can pull up the record from Glacier and say, even after 35 years later, that yes, Sohail was a student. Imagine if college does not maintain the data and the data is deleted thinking that I am no longer. Who will come back after 35 years to investigate? If that was the mindset of that college and if they could delete it, then after 35 years, I will realize my mask card is forged. It is not valid. One use case, right? So likewise, bank Goldman Sachs is a 150 years old bank, one of the oldest banking institution, right? Let's assume that somebody had a lot of wealth that they left in the bank account. He died. Second generation died. Third generation died. Maybe fifth generation is coming back and claiming that account from Goldman Sachs, and they have all the evidence that they need. So Goldman Sachs should have 150 years old data stored into Glacier so that they can go back into archives and check, right? And then come back and then make that store this available. So there are hundreds and hundreds of use cases that we have, right? Medical records, patients records, death reports, right? Pharmaceutical secrets, whatever it is. A lot of data that you have that you don't want to get rid of it, but you want to store it, you don't want to see it, but you still want to have it. Glacier is a final resting place, and Glacier is a replacement for your tape drives. In traditional data centers, you tape the data and you keep it. In cloud world, in digital transformation world, you use Vault, you use archival service such as Glacier to preserve your data. Are we clear? Are you guys are following the lecture? Okay, very well, nice. Right now we understood there are three storage families that we have, and there are different purposes for the storages we understood. Now, how do you bring this data? Right? The first option that you see here as part of cloud data migration is Snowball, right? So what you can do is you can go to Canada, you can take that snow, you can make a ball, and you can put the pen drive inside the ball and you can throw the ball. I'm messing with you guys. Okay. Okay, something like this. Right? So what will happen is if you have gone to ATM to withdraw money, right? You go to some ATM to withdraw money and you will see there's one copywriter vehicle, the yellow color vehicle, at least in India, right? The yellow color vehicle will come. One guy will get down from the back of that vehicle. He will go across the road and stand on the other side, right? Another guy will come back and in the ATM will go and say, "Hey, we are shutting down the ATM. We have to load money. Kindly vacant." Two guys will get down later holding that aluminum box and get into ATM to start loading money, right? So why am I telling you this and how is it relevant to your training, right? Let's understand that. So the copywriter vehicles are the vehicles who transmit money from one ATM to another ATM from banks are third party contractors. Bank has contracted them to go load money, right? And if you very closely notice, there is one guy who is sitting inside holding a long gun, looking things around and coordinating with each other to see, right? Though there is no crime that is happening with ATM vehicles today, but this is called protocol that they follow. Even if there's nothing to worry about, they still have to follow our standard procedures. So that is all they are doing. So they are third-party contractors whose job is to safely transport money and ensure the money reaches its destination, right? And any trouble that happens in between, these guys have to deal with it. So what AWS has done is AWS has hired the same company, right? Now this time, instead of carrying a briefcase full of money, they will carry a Snowball briefcase. The thing that you see in front of your eyes is called Snowball. It's a briefcase which has uh, up to 70 terabytes of storage, right? It has its own power supply, it has motherboard inside, it has CPU, memory, everything. It is basically a tower or a CPU dabba which has far too much storage into that, right? So why are we talking about Snowball? What are the use cases that we're trying to articulate here, right? Now let's assume that you have a very sensitive information. Let's say you're a drug company or a pharmaceutical company who have developed cancer drug, right? And you have a manufacturing plant in India who are manufacturing those drugs. So will you put that cancer formula in an email and send it to the manufacturing plant stating that, hey, this is the formula, go and make it? Things don't work that way, right? So they will encrypt that. They will not transfer this over the internet. They'll put it in this briefcase and they'll store it somewhere. One use case, right? Bitcoins or other use case. You cannot take bitcoins in your pen drive. If you lose your pen drive, you're gone, right? You need to have a secure medium such as this. So there are a lot of sensitive information, digital form of information that you have that you do not want to migrate over an internet, thinking that somebody would intercept your internet and may depackage it and may get access to it, which is doable from a technology perspective. So instead, if you could migrate your data off internet, right, it's extremely unlikely chances that somebody would gain access to it, right? That is point number one. Now, point number two, see the thickness here. See the thickness, and this thickness is by design. So let's assume that this is getting transmitted, and in the movie, if you see a big truck and coming hitting, right? A big truck comes and hit it. So this briefcase can take that impact, right? Accidents, crashes while traveling, right? This can take that impact. That is where the outer shell is thick. Even if a small size explosion happens, this can take the impact, not the big one. Big one means even the vehicles will be like pieces. Small one, very small one, blast happens, it can take the impact, right? And it has sensors around. So in movies, if you have seen, people are fighting for a briefcase, right? If some people are fighting for this, it can detect the stress that it has been stressed and it will format the data. So nobody will get access to data. Are we clear? So this is one use case, Snowball, that you can do. There's no need of doing this lab. If you do this lab tomorrow, one guy will stand outside your house holding this briefcase, right? So this is Snowball. Let's discuss Snowmobile. So what AWS has done is AWS has taken standard shipping truck, right? And that big containers that you see in the ocean, usually standard containers. And what they have done is they put a lot of hard drives, optic fiber cable, servers, network switches, batteries, UPS. You can think as data center on wheels. This is a data center on wheels. That means if you have a lot of data that cannot be moved in a small briefcase, you have to truck it up and you have to send it to AWS. Like you have seen fire brigade that will come and remove fire hoses and start sprinkling water. Like that, these guys will come remove all those optic fiber cables, start running into your data center. They will plug it in and they will suck all juice and fill into these dabbas and they'll go. Again, same theory, right? This can be tracked if you order food on Swiggy or Zomato or any other food delivery app. You can see how your food is traveling, where the food it is, how long it will take to reach your house, etc., etc. Will show you in your map. If you booked a cab, you can see where the cab it is and how long it will take to come and pick you up. All that you can see, right? So likewise, it has GPS built into the system here, right? Amazon can track whether this container is on an ocean over a ship, or is it inside the plane flying, or is it on the train going, or is it on the truck moving. All that they can track, right? If somebody's trying to lift this, right? Maybe an helicopter comes and they try to lift this container up, right? The system can detect that it has lifted, somebody has lifted it above the ground level. After a certain level of ground level, if it goes even higher, the data will be formatted. Though that person can take the container and fly away, but he will not get data. Simple, right? Or if a truck guy is taking a wrong way or another route, He will get a call and he better answers it. If he doesn't, the data is formatted. Is it making sense, boys? Is it too much of GAN? Nice. So that is Snowball, right? Next is Storage Gateway. Storage Gateway is a software appliances or a software designed and developed by AWS. Why AWS had to reinvent a wheel, right? You have a lot of backup softwares that exist in the industry. You have Symantec Net Backup, you have Commvault, right? You have Veeam, right? There are 50 different backup softwares. Why AWS had to invent their own storage gateway software? The answer is pretty simple: licensing fee. Amazon wants to make the data migration experience seamless and virtually with no cost, right? If you happen to use any third-party tools, you have to pay licensing fees. With Commvault, Symantec Net Backup, Veeam, or any other software that you're using, you have to pay licensing fee and then you get started. But instead, Amazon has made a storage gateway tool that is free for you. You can just connect it. You can start moving your data in AWS. The limitation with this tool is it works one way. Whatever data that you have in your premise can be brought into AWS. But if you want to take outside AWS, this tool will not work, right? So that is second thing that you need to remember, right? So we cannot do Snowball Lab because if you order it, a truck or a briefcase will come. But surely I will do the storage gateway lab and I'll show it to you. The third option is Direct Connect, right? In order to use Direct Connect, you need to own and operate a data center. If you own and operate a data center, you can connect to Amazon data center through a virtual MPLS line and you can move the data back and forth, right? That is Direct Connect. After that, we have third-party connectors. You can use third-party softwares, right? Such as Commvault, Symantec Net Backup, right? Cloudberry, Cloud Labs, S3 browser. There are a lot of third-party tools that are available that you can integrate with AWS storages and you can move your data. Transfer Accelerator, right? There's special softwares that are designed to efficiently use your bandwidth. While moving, they will compress the data. While moving, they'll break the data into multiple smaller parts, a larger file that they will take and chuck them into smaller pieces, right? So these softwares are specifically designed to take advantage of the bandwidth, and Amazon fully supports any kind of accelerators that exist in the market. And the last thing is Kinesis Firehose, right? If you are an application developer and you have various source of collecting data, for example, you have hundreds of mobile phones, people are clicking selfies, and you have a mobile app that people are using it like a photo app, right? So Kinesis Firehose can be programmatically built into a phone application to collect data from hundreds of phones, right? So this is the overall portfolio about AWS storages and how do you bring data to AWS. Any questions, guys? Okay, can you explain me storage gateway again? Okay. So storage gateway is a software designed and developed by AWS, right? Which does the job of bringing or moving the data from on-premise to AWS, right? But this is only one way. You cannot take the data outside AWS to on-premise back again. It is only one way. It's a software appliance in form of a virtual machine that can be installed inside the customer premises and can be treated as a local network drive, and it can fetch that information and upload this information to AWS. So that is storage gateway. The similar products that exist from various vendors such as Commvault, Symantec, NetBackup, Veeam, right? But to begin with them, you have to at least start with licenses, right? Amazon has made this software virtually free. When I say virtually free, there's no cost for a software that you pay, but you still have to pay for an internet or an upload bandwidth. Are we clear, Gopal? Hey, Gokul Krishnan.
Hi, sir. Due
Put
to
yourself on mute, yaar.
yeah.
Okay. Right. So let's do some lab. Enough of chit chatting. So let's do some lab. Right. So services S3. S3 stands for Simple Storage Service, SSS. Right. Right. So first thing what I will do is I'll create my bucket here. Right. Bucket should be a DNS compliance bucket. Right. For example, let's say in our class we have Gopal. Right. There could be a possibility that there is one more Gopal somewhere in the world, and there could be a possibility that that Gopal happens to have an AWS account. Guys, is there any background noise seeping in? Excellent, right? So if you happen to have one more Gopal somewhere else in the world, and if he happens to have an AWS account, and if he has taken that name, Gopal bucket, then we will not get it because the DNS compliance in AWS world, you really have to be tricky to get a bucket name. Let me show an example here. Right? And I want to create this, let's say in Mumbai. Right? Now if you click on create, it says the bucket name already exists. So some Gopal somewhere in this world has already taken. So our Gopal will not get this bucket, right? So which year did you born, Gopal? Which is your year? Which year did you were you born? 1990? Give me your year of birth, Gopal. Where did he go, yaar? Gopal, you there? I think he joined and left. Divi, you're there? Which year did you born, Divi? Okay, you don't want to say. Mahesh, which year were you born, Mahesh? Okay, 82. Okay. So what I will do is first let me check with Mahesh. Right, I'm just trying to create a Mahesh bucket here. And it says the bucket name is already taken because it's a very common name. And I'm pretty sure there are hundreds of Mahesh who are AWS professionals. So they have already claimed this bucket name. So we really have to be unique. So since he said he was born in 92, right? So let me try with 92 here. 93. Okay. 1982. And hopefully I should get a bucket now. Let me click on create. And there you go. If you scroll down here somewhere, I have Mahesh bucket that I've created, and I have used his date of year and finally got the bucket, right? But most probably this bucket is not taken, right? And if you see on the right hand side, this was created on November 27th. It was created about 9 o'clock, and this was done in Mumbai, right? Now, likewise, if I want to create multiple buckets, I can create, right? This time, Divi was born in 1993, right? And when I click on create, this time let me create this somewhere else. Let me put Divi in Singapore. Click on create. Right, and if you see here, I've got my bucket created. So when you're doing this lab, you have to be very, very, very thoughtful here, right? In terms of how you find your name, and you will not get common names, right? Common names such as Apple, right? Common names you will not get. Names such as music. See, any name that you try, it is all taken, right? You have to be really creative in terms of finding name. So once you have created a bucket, you can log into the bucket, right? So the free storage is 5 GB. So do not exceed more than 5 GB per year. And anything that you have under 5 GB, it is free for you, right? The maximum storage per S3 bucket is 9.3 hexabyte. Maximum storage per bucket is 9.3 hexabyte, right? And third thing is your object size or the file size should not be more than 5 terabytes. If it is 5.1 terabyte of single file, the storage will not support. But if you have a smaller files of few gigabytes that is beyond 5 terabyte, you can still move in. But you should not have one single file crossing 5 terabyte as a single file size. So these are some of the constraints that you need to remember, right? So now, for example, I want to upload something or I want to create, I can create anything that I want, right? Music, save. So I have my folder here, videos, documents, right? So anything, once you have your bucket ready, you can create anything that you want. Now let's say that you want to upload a content here. I want to upload my video. I click on my video folder, click on upload, add a file. I think I have something sample here. Let me upload. See, there you go. I have my file here. Now I want to publish this file. I want to give this link to you. I want to make this file publicly available, right? All I have to do is to select this, right? Go to action. File, go to action. And you see an option which says make public. You just have to click on make public and make public here. So when you click on this, right, if you notice the URL here, I'll copy this URL and I'll paste it. Hit. Now if you notice the URL here, right, the selected area is my file name, sample video underscore, the resolution of that video and the file size. And if you notice here, this is my video folder that I created. And if you see here, Mahesh 1982 is my bucket. And this is running off of my AWS S3. I don't have to buy a certificate and install. That is also automated in AWS. So when I'm transmitting any data, the data is encrypted by default. That is why the URL says HTTPS. When I hit enter, you will see the certificate. It does not appear to be, huh? Make public. Access denied. What happened? Just give me a moment, guys. Okay, public access settings for this bucket using this blah blah blah. Public access settings. Use MS3 blocks public access settings to control the settings through public access to your data. Edit. Block new public access URL. Remove public access grant through. Okay. Block new bucket public access. Block public access across accounts if bucket has public folder. Right. Now let's test. Right. Now let's refresh. Array. Mm-hmm. Give me a moment, guys. Let me troubleshoot here. Okay, everything is done. Bucket policies. Okay, finally it says the object can be public. Now let's test videos. Click on this link, make public. Now it finally succeeded. Let me go back and refresh. That's it. If you see right now, the video is actually streaming off of the internet here. Right? So you can actually publish any form of content that you have, such as videos, audios, right, in documents, and you can stream from S3 bucket. You can literally stream, and as you could see here, I've streamed this video, right? And how does the transit work? If I click on this lock, this is encrypted. If I click on this certificate, they're using a digital cert certificate here, and is 2048-bit encrypted, so that you don't have to worry about somebody's intercepting your data off of the internet. Entire pipeline is also secured. Clear? Now, if you want to do a data migration, for example, For an example, you have all these videos and this is there in your Mumbai region. This is in your Mumbai data center. Now you want to migrate this data to Singapore, or you want to migrate this data to another bucket which is in another region. It is as simple as just doing cut, copy, paste. For example, I'll select all files. I'll go to action and I'll do cut. So all the data that I have in my Mahesh's bucket is cut now. I'll go back. I'll go to Divi's folder here and I have nothing. All I have to do is go to action and then click on paste. The paste is getting highlighted. Click on paste. It says, do you want to paste all these files? And if you see, I've just migrated the data. It's a 5 MB data from Mumbai region to Singapore. Are you guys with me so far? Yes, 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 no, maybe. Okay. If you don't need any data, it is pretty simple. You select this, you go to action and you click on delete, your data gets deleted. Right? So let me show you a couple of other exercises also. Let me get rid of these buckets quickly. Empty. Confirm. Delete. Empty. Right? Now, can I host a website? So let me show you. You can use S3 bucket to actually host a website also. Right? So now to do that, you just have to click on create a bucket and type www dot something like this. Right? Saddam had bought a domain name like this. Whatever domain name that you have, right? It could be the DevOps Guru domain that you have purchased. Something like this. So whichever domain you have purchased, make sure that you include www.yourdomain.com, whatever the domain that you have. In my case, I already have a domain. It's www.adnan.team. Okay, it says that I already have created a bucket with this name. So it will not allow me to create, otherwise I would have created it. So where is it? And it is right here. I'll open this. The couple of sample files that I have, I'll get rid of them. Go to action, delete. Now my bucket is empty. Right now I need some of the websites that I can upload here. So we'll go back to HTML5. And by the way, guys, I've showed you this website in your first lecture, right? You can go to html5up.net and then you can download any templates that you want. Right? For example, I want this template. I'll click on free download. The template is getting downloaded here. Show in the folder. We'll extract this here. Extract all. Extract. And all my files have been extracted here. The next thing what I need to do is I need to go to properties. I need to go to version. I need to enable version. Make sure your version is enabled. And third thing is you have to go to static website, right? You need to enable the static website. You need to say, hey, I'm going to use this for static website, and make sure you type index.html, index.html. right? And then you click on save. That's all you have to do. And the third step is we will upload the files the same way that we did previously. Go to upload, add file, and the file name was what? Paradigm shift. Right? This is very tricky, but you have to do this in the exact same way. Select all the files, you drag and drop it here, click open, and then upload. Select all the files, action, and you can make this public. Make public all of them. Go to properties, static web hosting, and you have the URL here that you can click to launch. And if you see this paradigm shift that I copied from HTML5 website, this is running off of my S3 bucket. You see this? The whole website is running off of my S3 bucket now. No EC2 instance, nothing. Right? Let me give you this URL. So you can host websites also, basic websites also. Right? Now the domain name is long. Right? You want to mask this domain. It is pretty simple. We'll go back to Route 53 like we did in our previous lecture. Hosted zone, adnan.team. Previously we created this domain, and you need to go to a record. You need to look for a record which says www.adnan.team. Click on edit, and you see this S3 bucket here. You just have to select this and click on save. So now what it is doing is, instead of pointing this to my load balancer, it is now pointing to my domain. Now guys, I want you to check my domain and confirm whether it is working. Go to www.adnan.team and see whether it is pointing to my S3 website now. It is working excellent. Right, paradigm shift. You can use this like your simple website, your resume, online resume. Right, you can change your photo, whatever that you want. You can change your content here, and you can use this as a simple website. Isn't that fun, guys? So S3 is far more versatile than you thought, right? It has a lot of things in hidden. In subsequent classes, we will also learn how to use role-based replication, right? All that concepts we will learn in your next lecture. So do you have any questions from today's lecture before we wind up the class for today? No questions? Excellent. So I want you to create your own websites on S3, right? And share these domains with me when we meet in your next lecture. With that said, strongly advise and recommend you. Labs are really important for you to get hands-on experience. So keep practicing and start sharing your lab outcomes on the WhatsApp class. With that said, thank you very much, guys. I will see you in your next one. Bye-bye.